morning, everyone. This is James Renouf and Greg Sane with the Solutions Architect team. Can everyone hear me okay? If you could, if you don't mind putting it in the chat that you can hear us. We appreciate you being here. So I'm going to hand the presentation over to Greg, and then if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Greg, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, my name is Greg Sane, and I know that we've probably got another minute or so, and I want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to come in and be here, but we want to say thank you very much to start off with. We do have, if this is your first time using GoToWebinar, we have a questions section and we have a chat section, and we've got a couple on my team that are going to be monitoring that. So yeah, I think we can just go ahead and get into it. Again, thank you for joining today. I'm very excited to share some insights on the benefits a website can bring to your business. A couple of housekeeping items before we truly get started with the content. Today's webinar will be about 30 to 40 minutes long. We want to have plenty of time for questions at the end. If you do have any questions, go ahead and submit those in the chat or in the questions section, and we'll be able to cover those. With GoToWebinar, if you do have any kind of technical issues, please use the live chat. Like I said, we have a team behind the scenes that'll be able to help out. And if there are audio issues, typically there's an option in GoToWebinar where you can switch from computer audio to phone, and that'll typically resolve the problem. And if you are interested in anything that we discussed today, please let us know in the chat and we'll make sure that we reach out to you after this webinar. So during today's presentation, we're going to contextualize where the industry is at this moment, July 2023. What kind of patterns have emerged and what can we learn about them? We're also going to talk about how websites are necessary for your business and what it takes for your website to be truly effective. And finally, what Storable specifically brings to the table so your business can stand out and take advantage. So first of all, a little bit of context. Let's lay the groundwork. Where is the industry right now? Now, believe me, as much as I would love to not have to say the P word, the pandemic really did influence the industry in a good way, I want to mark. Everyone's huddled at home buying stuff off Amazon, and then stay-at-home orders are lifted. People have too much stuff for them to keep, and storage is right there waiting for them. Throughout 2021 and 2022, we saw significantly more move-ins than move-outs, and hit an all-time record high at 85% occupancy across the industry. And mind you, that 85% occupancy includes entire facilities that were built brand new and immediately filled with tenants. Now, of course, with every ebb, there's a flow. And with the first 2 quarters of 2023, we've seen the move-in, move-out ratio start to come back down to earth, which has brought occupancy back down to the pre-pandemic norm of 77%. Now, even though this just looks like, oh, we saw this 2-year boom and we're leveling back out to quote unquote normal. That might appear true when it comes to occupancy, but how marketing is done and how clients interact with your business, that is what has majorly shifted. And we'll show you why it doesn't seem to be slowing down or going back anytime soon. So that's what happened in the last 2.5 years. But what's that, what comes from all of that? Well, 87% of Americans own a computer, and 85% of Americans own a smartphone. With this, tenants have grown to expect not only digital forms of engagement, but contactless engagement as well. This graph shows how many tenants are using online services to find storage, and it's the difference between pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic. While it makes sense for the younger generations to be consuming almost everything digitally these days, the age groups that are a bit more interesting is the 55 plus crowd. While growth in the digital adoption can be credited to the pandemic as a pure necessity, people are staying home, people using their phone. What's interesting is digital usage among 55 plus is staying flat. So now online marketing or even contactless interactions, be it reservations, move-ins, payments, these are becoming the norm. And I don't want to just ignore this millennial and Gen Z generation. I mean, they demand technology in almost every aspect of their lives, and they're becoming a larger percentage of our tenants. And as generations approach adulthood, if they haven't already, they want to use technology to interact with their businesses, including their storage facility. Now, this graph I find fascinating because it confirms and displays a lot of things. This graph shows how many people are searching for storage online, searching storage near me. Now, honestly, I could talk an entire 30 minutes just on this graph alone, but I'm going to hit on a few of the key takeaways that you should be getting from this graph. Firstly, looking at 2018 and 2019, and even the first quarter of 2020 before the pandemic, searching online for storage was okay, but it wasn't great. And then you can see the immediate effect of the pandemic in April 2020. But every single month, every single data point after April 2020 is higher than we've ever seen before. We talked earlier about how occupancy in 2023 is now back down to the same levels as it was excuse me, in 2018 and 2019. But if occupancy is the same and the online searching trends compared are much higher here in 2023, this tells us that online marketing is here to stay and we're not going back. We also mentioned earlier that 2021 and 2022 were record-setting years for occupancy. But again, I want to emphasize, this isn't a graph of occupancy. This is people finding storage online. Occupancy was up, searching online was up. It's not the same graph, but it reflects the same data. Which brings me to my biggest point. This industry has always had that natural summer bump. You got spring cleaning, college kids looking to store stuff, among other things. This causes Q2 and Q3 to see the highest levels of occupancy throughout the year. But again, even though this isn't a graph about occupancy, the fact that searching for storage online is mirroring the actual industry stats, and with these numbers being so high, this tells us that marketing, online marketing, is directly linked to the performance of this industry. Now, you might also look at this graph and notice that 2023 isn't as high as 21 or 22, but we all know industries ebb and flow, and with the prior 2 years hitting record highs, we're currently in the downtick before the next rise. Excuse me, the next rise. You buy low and sell high. When you buy low, it's to prepare for that upcoming uptick. And that is why we're talking today. Being prepared with the right resources in the right places for that next uptick. Now, I want to be very clear that when I say uptick, no one is expecting 2021's occupancy numbers to be the new standard, or that there's some boom around the corner. What I want to be clear about is people are searching online. Online marketing mirrors occupancy trends. And historically, Q2 and Q3 have the highest occupancy throughout the year. So, come March 2024, you want a website that tenants can find online, because that's how they're looking. Now, you can't just launch a website in February 2024 because it needs time to get on Google's radar. It needs a few months to build a solid reputation and gain some traction so that it's an established website by the time we get to February 2024. So, people are searching online. What does it take to have a good website, to stand above the crowd so that you're found? You want to be discovered. Going on to Google, people are going on to Google, type in storage near me. Now, actually, real quick, I want to take a quick side note. I'm saying Google because Google accounts for 92% of all organic searches made in the US. But when I'm talking about Google, all of this is going to apply to other search engines like Yahoo and Bing as well. So, how does Google determine which websites get displayed at the top. SEO, or search engine optimization, determines where you're ranked. You've probably heard the term SEO before. How you're ranked is all at the mercy of Google's algorithm. You know, people are searching. When they find, and people search, people find you, people give you their business. I want to show you how a website can help with that people find you part. Now, getting ranked on Google. Why is it so important to be ranked so high on Google? Well, when people search on Google, 27.8%, nearly 28% of everyone that searches on Google chooses that #1 slot, that coveted top of the list. More than 1 in 4, that's #1, cool, clicking on it, that's what I want. But okay, it's not realistic to, assume that, everyone on this call is gonna be #1. But, you still want to be high, but how high? Even in the top 5 accounts for 69.1, nearly 70% of people clicking online, people clicking the top 5 when they search for things on Google. We've seen the trend that people are searching online, but this tells us they're not searching deep. 7 out of 10 people won't even scroll down on Google's main page to find a better match. There's 10 options on that first page of Google, and 7 out of 10 are clicking that top 5. So, in order for you to be found and drive business to your site, you have to take advantage by building a website that has what Google is looking for. Because having a website that's just good enough isn't good enough anymore. Now, I've got a couple of, very generic types of websites, and I've given them a letter grade on how likely they are to be successful. If you just have a Facebook page or some simple design with, a picture or contact info, well, that's a C. And I'd love to give that a lower grade. Then you've got a dedicated website. You got your own domain, and it's got pertinent info. It's got contact info. It's got some pictures. This will show you a little info about the website or about our business. This used to be good enough. Hey, people are coming to storage.in whatever your facility's name is, and hey, I've got pictures of units, and I've got our contact information, and people are clicking and calling. That's not good enough anymore. You need your website to be built the right way. Mobile first. We talked about how many people are using their smartphones. You need it to be mobile first. You also need it to have good back-end setup, and we'll talk about what that means in just a minute, as well as contactless capabilities. Now, contactless isn't just moving in online, showing up at the facility, and start putting your stuff in a unit without ever talking to you. although many facilities are doing exactly that, going unmanned. It also means first point of contact with reservations, as well as online bill pay. They log into your website, pay, log off. That's contactless. Now, there is something extra. There are other things that you can do to really make you stand out and boost your SEO, but for right now, I just want to talk about that A. I want to talk about what your website needs. So, how should you have a website built? The algorithms that search engines use are incredibly complex. Seriously, Google takes approximately 206 factors into account to determine SEO. Unfortunately, due to the complexity of these SEO algorithms, it can be a daunting task to try and increase your rank. This is why it's so important to partner with the right web provider that has SEO at their forefront. Now, some SEO factors are absolutely weighted more than others, and we're going to highlight the most important parts, like mobile flexibility, the visual content that you see on your website, the back-end stuff as well, and finally, usability. So first, let's talk about mobile flexibility. Now, Google can tell if a website is going to adjust to match the size of the device that's being used. Your website should have the ability to check to see what kind of device is accessing this page. And then it takes all the site content and puts it in the appropriate place so that it can appeal to tenants searching for you on whatever device they're using. It's a little thing that is super important, and Google looks for it. Next is the visible content. You want to have the right info in the appropriate places. So you've got pictures, that's great. But you want to have pictures with good naming conventions. If you've got a picture of your units, you don't want it called something like untitled2.jpg or whatever. It should have something maybe like your facility's name or something like outdoor units. So that way the picture is reflecting what it's called. That matching up, Google really pays attention to that. Then you've got keywords. You see these keywords on here that are highlighted. If people are searching for storage near me, Google wants to make sure the top suggestions have something to do with storage. You want keywords like, the city that you're in or the municipality that you're near. And, honestly, as silly as it sounds, having the words storage and units, words like climate controlled or temperature controlled or boat RV, if you want the keywords to be there, but you don't just want to have a list. Google can tell if you're trying to game the system and just have a bullet point full of, catchy keywords. Having the pertinent information appearing naturally is very important. I think I'm actually on the wrong slide. I apologize about that. There we go. One was just out of order. Now, There's another term called above the fold. This term is a term that means what's on the screen before you ever scroll. You know, you load up the website, you see your facility, you see a nice picture. What's the most important information right there when it loads up? You know, maybe a button that says rent or reserve. So having the right info in the right places is the right way to build your site. Then there's behind the scenes. I actually did have it in the right order, so boop. Backlinks. There we go. Now we're in the right spot. There's the behind the scenes stuff that you don't necessarily see that's going to optimize your website. Hidden parts on the back end, like the backlinks. Backlinks are links to your website from other sites like Facebook or articles or marketing sites like Sparefoot. Basically, if other sites link to you, it boosts your reputation. DNS records. There's, you can have code on the back end that, you get from, Google or Facebook. Basically, it's code that is verifying that your site is legitimate. It's kind of like a digital stamp of approval. Also, meta tags. Honestly, these are just tags of code that Google can read to make sure that the right things are in the right spot. It just helps funnel Google to the right places. This is a little weird one. Headlines. Yeah, you can have headlines that look, well and good on your page. But honestly, there's a difference in headline text versus info text. And having the right kind of text the right way, headlines specifically, there are two types of headlines, H1 and H2. Having them in the right places is very important. And finally, linking with your GMB account to bolster the fact that this site is for this company. So we talked about mobile flexibility, visible content, and back-end content. It looks well enough, but it also needs to be functional. It needs to be interactive. You need to click around. You want the tenant to interact with it. If Google sees a history of users clicking onto the site, sit and do nothing, and then leave, it'll think the page isn't engaging. Even if in real life they come to this page, they call you, and that's why you're sitting there doing nothing, and then you leave, Google doesn't know that you're utilizing the website. So having things like CR promotions, click here to rent today, contact us. Now, functionality and interactivity is kind of a tightrope because Google's algorithm wants clicks and interactivity, but a user doesn't want to have to click through 4 screens just to see if you have any availability. Users want as few clicks as possible, or they'll get frustrated and go to another site. Google wants clicks, so having that balance is very important. So we've talked about how your business's website should be set up. People need to find your site. This is what it takes to get noticed. And honestly, I just want to say, if you take nothing away from this presentation other than a healthier understanding of how to make your current website better, honestly, that's great. If you're in this presentation, then you're using storEDGE, and any way to help drive tenants to your business, that's a win in my book. But if you don't have a website, or if your website doesn't do these things, or you're just not happy with your website, I want to take these last couple of slides here to highlight how Storable's websites directly integrating with storEDGE can yield great results with little to no effort on your part. And again, at any point, if you're interested, please let us know in the chat and we'll make sure to reach out to you. First of all, Storable does everything we just talked about. D, all of the above, everything that we've talked about. Our websites only work if customers find them. And people need to like them. Search engines need to like them. Storable's websites are made for both real human users and Google's robots alike. So, Storable's websites have that little something extra for a number of reasons. First, I want to highlight is direct FMS integration. We don't use any kind of third-party API. Everything we do is in-house and connected. If you've updated your prices or amenities on your units in storEDGE, they'll immediately update online too. Promotions you've got set up in storEDGE, they'll display on the website. The move-ins, reservations, and payments made online will immediately pop up and display in storEDGE. In your task list, you'll get your email. There's also, honestly, it's a very easy implementation. As our website designers are creating your website, you have access to it and have input in the design. And we're not going to push that publish to the world button until you're happy with it. And if you see something like a video or a cool widget you get from somewhere, we can put it on there. In fact, I had a client who made their own 3D tour thing and wanted to put it on their website. So we put it on their website. We want to work with you so that your vision of what you want your website to look like can come true. After implementation, it's also easy to update on your own. We have a very intuitive user interface where you can log in, update a picture, or change text. You have control over your website. Now, with that being said, for more involved things like moving things around or adding a new page, or if you just want to be hands-off and you want someone else to change the text, something easy, we're happy to be involved just to make sure that everything looks and works the way it should. You just reach out to our support team with, I want to add this or I want to change this, and we'll absolutely get it done. And number 4, we help with the hard stuff. Now, this one I do want to expand on a little more. When I say help with the hard stuff, hosting duties and So hosting duties, this is something that can actually save you money. If you own your domain for your website, like the name of our website, storable.com, that's our domain. You also have to have that domain hosted somewhere. You might buy your domain from domain.com or Google Domains or Squarespace, but it also needs to be hosted somewhere. It's like you buy a car, but you need a place to park it. There are services out there like Bluehost or HostGator or GoDaddy that you can pay to have them host your domain. And that's all well and good if you want to do that. We play nice. We got clients that have a GoDaddy hosting contract, great. But if you have a storable website, we offer hosting free of charge. It's part of the package as an option to save you some money. We talked earlier about the DNS verification. You can get these verification codes from Facebook or from Google, like that stamp of approval. And we can make sure that those are set up and in the right spot. And that's a part of our hosting duties, which does mean that, if we're not the host, then we can't update these records for you. That would be on, whoever is hosting for you. But if you're someone who, likes these tags, and if you find other kinds of DNS tags, you kind of get down that rabbit hole and you want to put more DNS tags on there, awesome. We'll make sure that they're set up right. Send to us, send to our support team, and we'll set it up as your host. Then we have, connecting with GMB, your Google My Business or Google Analytics. We're built to connect directly with them. And if you don't have it set up, we're happy to set it up for you. We're happy to help you out with that. Because having that Google My Business and linking them together, it in turn boosts your SEO. So if you have it, we'll connect to it. If you don't, we'll help you build one. And the last thing I want to point out for the hard stuff is when Google updates, we update. This actually happened a year or two ago where Google majorly updated its SEO algorithm. And since we're so ingrained in the SEO industry, we saw their changes and we made our own so that our websites don't miss a step and we're still easy to find. We're keeping up with it. And one of the many things that Storable utilizes that appeals to both humans and those SEO robots alike are contactless move-ins or contactless capabilities. Now, different businesses do things differently. Many facilities, especially unmanned sites, want tenants to move in online and pay monthly online without needing to have another point of contact. Other facilities just want reservations online and, after an email or a phone call, then send the process back to the tenant so that the tenant can move in from the comfort of their own home or car or amusement park, wherever they have their phone, they can move in. And then some facilities only want online reservations. Then the tenant comes in and the site manager moves them in. Cool. While we are seeing trends that more and more tenants want to be able to do the whole move-in process online soup to nuts, to whatever degree of contactlessness your business is comfortable with, storable websites integrating with storEDGE can handle it. Especially thanks to tools such as auto-enrolling tenants into autopay so you have fewer delinquent tenants, or electronically signing your leases. And we're flexible. If you change your mind and you want to increase or decrease however contactless you want to be, great, super easy. You're not locked into anything. We can update, we can help you out. So earlier, I mentioned a couple of letter grades about what a website needs. And we've been talking about, an A. But I do want to talk about that A+, that extra edge. Especially, which is especially more important for those more competitive markets. Sparefoot is the largest marketplace for finding and reserving storage. Think, Yelp or apartments.com, but for storage. I spoke earlier about backlinks on your site, about having other websites linking to your site and legitimizing the site with a consistency. Sparefoot is a great resource for prospective tenants, and linking to your site and integrating with storEDGE helps your SEO. Not only that, it actually doesn't cost you anything until it works. We only look at leads that were generated from Sparefoot specifically, that then converted into move-ins. It doesn't cost you anything until you're already making money directly from this service. And then additionally, the other part of this A+ is, I would say, digital marketing services. Because with all of the other SEO jargon that I've talked about today, I know that the digital marketing services can be a lot, so I'm just going to keep it kind of high level. But digital marketing services, or our DMS, provides a couple of options. We have listings management, which improves your online reputation on third-party sites and allows you to keep all listings current and monitor customer reviews all in one place. You got pay per click. We have specialists that help capture more and higher quality leads thanks to tailored, targeted campaigns, and tracks the performance of those so that it can be refined and yield better results. And we also have ongoing SEO. We keep our SEO finely tuned with ongoing tweaks and optimizations to your website to ensure that your website is consistently performing at peak efficiency for search results. At the end of the day, the broad topic is lead generation and lead conversion, because we all want a successful and sustainable business. There are a lot of website options out there that can get you a website. but your website only works if it's discoverable and people visit it. As we've learned over the last couple of years, things can change quickly, and you need to acquire the tools necessary to adapt to this ever-changing landscape. Whether you currently have a website or are looking to build one, it is important to remember that technology is shaping a new path for this industry. And the traditional way of operating has been disrupted, and change is happening. The needs and expectations of your tenants are evolving. And to stay competitive, you have to meet their needs in this new digital era. That brings us to the end of the prepared part of this presentation. I believe there might be a couple of questions which we'll open up for. And while we're answering questions, again, if you're interested in anything that we've talked about today, please let us know in the chat and we'll reach out to you, or you can email us at salessolutions@storable.com. But while we're looking at the chat, let's see if we had any questions come across our desk.
I have a couple of questions, Greg, that came in. One was from Allison that said she's using a Storable website. She's ranking very high with the organic search, but did you happen to have any comments when it comes to the Google Maps search to possibly rank higher on that?
That's a great question, because Google Maps and Google itself, they obviously work very hand in hand. Google Maps is very location dependent. That being said, there are plenty of times where they are out of order and where things are. That would be one of the options. That would be something that we could look at with our digital marketing services, with our campaigns. Sometimes like number of reviews or amount of traffic that's brought to it through Google Maps specifically will get it. They're linked, but they have kind of their own ranking, their own SEO. So I would definitely say time and traffic through Google Maps, but yeah, that has a history. Google Maps is way more location dependent as well.
And also with Google Maps, where sometimes, and not that it's in your case, Allison, but sometimes it's, do you have your correct business hours on there? Do you have a link to your website? In other words, when you look at the Google Map option, there's several different areas that you can include information. The more information that you have there, and Greg made a great point with the reviews, the more the information that you have, that is some low-hanging fruit that can help with your rankings. But again, to Greg's point, reach out to our team and we can look at that for you. A couple other questions, Greg, if we have time. We have one that says, can you talk about Google Analytics? Can we run a report on that?
Yeah, so Google Analytics, when it links to your website, Google Analytics is its own thing, obviously. When you have Google My Business, you're logging into that. You're logging into Google Analytics. Inside of Google Analytics, it'll tell you, where people are, on a map, where people are when they're accessing your site. What cities, how often, average amount of time people spend on which page, things like that. So there's a lot of information in Google Analytics. I don't off the top of my head, I can't think of any specific reporting that it might have in its own right, but with our digital marketing services, we also have our own reporting and our own analytics and metrics, if that's the route that you go. But yeah, Google Analytics should have reporting. I know that it has maps on its dashboard and a lot of graphs to interpret.
Excellent. Another question said, do we have a list of suggested pictures to use on our websites?
So we don't have like a stock portfolio. What I would say is the sites that do well not only show unit doors or a sky picture of your facility, but people moving in, people behind the counter, a clean space. If you have a gate, get a picture of your facility from behind the gate to show that it is a secure facility. Just having multiple aspects and multiple different kinds of pictures. You really don't need, a slideshow of this is what a 5x5 looks like. This is what a 5x10 looks like. This is what a 10 by. That's not going to do anything for a user, but yeah, total picture, individual pictures, people, different types of units, and like I said, making sure that they're named appropriately when you upload them. All of those are very good for your website.
Excellent, Greg. I think that's all we have for questions for today.
All right. Well, like I said, I hope that this has been some use to you. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Again, my name is Greg Sane, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining today's webinar.